Welcome to StarryCast.
Hi, everyone.
Today, we're really diving deep into the Aries archetype, that initial spark,
Right.
in astrology.
The very beginning.
We'll be looking at its essence, its element, modality, its ruling planet.
Mm-hmm. And also the strengths and the typical challenges you might see.
Exactly. So let's start right at the core. What is the essence of Aries?
Well, at its heart, Aries is really about the fundamental drive to exist. It's that pure, unfiltered I am.
I am, okay.
Yeah, it's the primal impulse to assert yourself, to be noticed, to kind of make your mark.
So it's not passive at all.
Oh, not at all. It's very active. It's fueled by this really potent life force, almost like a warrior spirit, ready to just meet the world head on.
Like that first breath, maybe?
That's a great analogy, that initial burst of life that's very Aries in its essence.
Okay, so this I am, it feels so foundational. How does that actually, show up day to day? Yeah. For someone strong in this archetype?
Well, it translates into this really energetic approach to, well, everything. Life, brimming with vitality, and that kind of inherent will to survive and also thrive.
So there's an intensity there.
Definitely. An intense energy and almost like instinctive power of projection. They tend to lead with action.
Trusting the gut.
Very much so. Often leaping before they fully look, you might say. Ideas turn into action really quickly.
Right. Not a lot of sitting around thinking about it first.
Not typically, no. Hesitation isn't usually the first response. It's more like, go.
So very much an act first, think later kind of vibe?
Often, yeah, that captures a lot of it. And this drive, it gets a big boost from a competitive spirit.
Oh, okay.
A really natural urge to excel, to be the best, in whatever they're doing.
So they need to keep testing themselves.
Constantly. Through direct experience, through action. That's how they learn about themselves, their limits, their capabilities. By tackling challenges, striving for that win.
It's like they're proving that I am capable statement over and over.
Exactly right. And while that outward push is so strong, a really key part of the Aries journey is learning to recognize and actually nurture their own inner needs, too.
Ah, so they can forget themselves sometime.
They can. Their focus can be so external, chasing the next thing, that sometimes their own well-being gets a bit overlooked in that pursuit.
Let's unpack the element. It's a fire sign, right?
Yeah.
How does that fire influence things?
Yes, fire. And that gives Aries this warmth, this natural spontaneity, and a really powerful intuitive spark.
So dynamic.
Very dynamic. Fire ignites, it spreads, it's about inspiration, that quickening of energy. It fuels their enthusiasm, their ability to get themselves and others moving.
And then there's the modality, Cardinal. How does that layer on top of the fire?
Okay, so cardinal signs are the initiators. They kick off the seasons. For Aries, you combine that cardinal impulse with fire.
And you get?
You get a very direct, very energetic, and often really immediate way of expressing themselves. Like a sudden burst of flame. It's warm, easily stimulated, acts spontaneously.
That sounds like a really potent mix. But could that directness cause issues in how they relate to people?
It can, yeah. While it's fantastic for getting things started, that very directness can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming to others, maybe even abrasive.
Too much, too fast.
Potentially. That initial blast of fiery energy might be too intense for some people, and it could actually hinder them getting support or cooperation down the line. Diplomacy sometimes comes second.
Interesting. So the strength itself, the initiation, could create its own obstacles.
That's a good way to put it. And that cardinal fire can also show up as a very direct, sometimes quite forceful approach in romance or attraction.
Ah, okay. A strong initiating energy there, too.
Very overt, often.
Right. Let's bring in the ruler, Mars. How does the energy of Mars shape this archetype?
Well, Mars is the planet of action, courage, assertion. It's such a natural fit for Aries. It basically just amps up those qualities already there, the drive, the determination, that willingness to take a risk.
The warrior within.
Exactly. Mars fuels that warrior.
Mars is, well, it's powerful. Are there potential downsides to having such a strong Martian influence?
Oh, absolutely. If that energy isn't channeled consciously, it can definitely come out as rashness, impulsivity.
Jumping the gun.
Yeah. Acting without really thinking through the consequences. Feelings can just spill straight into actions without much of a filter.
So that act first thing we talked about gets even more intense with Mars in the picture.
It does. But on the flip side, when it is channeled constructively, Mars in Aries gives this incredible surge of energy. It can lead to really big achievements, this unwavering dedication to their goals.
So focus makes the difference.
Huge difference. That focused Martian drive really propels them forward with real zeal and determination.
You mentioned how Mars works in other signs affects ambition. You brought up Capricorn earlier.
Right. So where Mars is in the chart tells you about the style of ambition, how that energy gets directed into work. Take Capricorn, Mars is exalted there, meaning it functions really well.
How so? Different from Aries.
Very. In Capricorn, that raw Martian energy gets tempered. It gets structure, discipline, a focus on the long game from Capricorn. It gains patience, strategy.
Oh, okay.
Still ambitious, but it's methodical. Perseverance, resilience against obstacles, that's Mars in Capricorn, focused on tangible results.
That sounds almost opposite to the immediate Aries style.
It's a very different expression, yeah. And even in Capricorn, there's a shadow side, of course.
Which is?
Well, that intense focus can become rigid, maybe even ruthless, pushing towards goals at any cost. Or, the other way, Capricorn's caution could actually block the Martian energy, making it hard to assert oneself.
It really shows how planets get flavored by the signs, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Nuance is key.
Okay, let's shift to strengths.
Okay.
What are the core advantages of the Aries archetype?
Well, one big one is this powerful will, often combined with a really penetrating intuition, especially about, the hidden forces in life.
Not logical intuition necessarily.
Often not, no. More like a deep gut knowing. It can bring real clarity, sometimes even leading to intuitive or occult abilities if they focus intensely.
Interesting.
And maybe an interest in science, too, particularly fields looking at fundamental energy. It reflects that drive to get to the core of things.
That intuition sounds like a major asset.
It really can be. Another key strength is their originality, their ingenuity. Often goes hand in hand with practical skills, maybe mechanical or technical interests.
Hands-on?
Yeah. And that do-or-die attitude, it can be incredibly powerful. It can drive them to fame, high positions.
But you have to watch out for burnout with that, I imagine.
You do. That intense will can sometimes overpower the physical body. Needs balance. But still, that energy, combined with knowing exactly what they want and a capacity for hard work, plus that original approach. It's a strong mix.
You mentioned healing abilities earlier. How does that connect?
Right. It's interesting. When Mars, Aries ruler, has supportive aspects from the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, these individuals can actually have quite remarkable healing gifts.
Wow.
It suggests they can channel that potent Martian energy in really transformative, helpful ways for others.
That's fascinating. What about leadership? Responsibility.
They often have a strong ability to coordinate big projects, long-term tasks, things with heavy responsibility.
Makes sense with the initiating energy.
Yeah, it can make them really well suited for leadership, maybe politics, public service. They can excel as executives, officials, where they can apply that initiating drive to bigger goals.
So they can sustain it. It's not just the initial spark.
Not at all, especially when there's awareness and some strategy involved. And another thing, Aries often brings these sudden opportunities for, mental growth.
Well, so.
Through a natural curiosity about new ideas. They tend to communicate fluently, make friends easily, often drawn to groups, sometimes groups with an esoteric focus, or interested in that science-intuition crossover.
So a dynamic mind as well as dynamic action?
Exactly. It's quite a multifaceted set of strengths.
Okay, let's flip the coin. The challenges. What are the common hurdles for someone with a strong Aries signature?
Well, probably the biggest one loops back to that impulsivity, that tendency to act before thinking things through fully.
Right, the potential consequences.
Exactly. For real, sustained success and fulfillment too, there's often a need to learn to pause. Just take a beat, weigh the options, learning patience, learning to create for something bigger than just immediate satisfaction. That's a huge growth area.
Makes sense. What about challenges in dealing with other people?
Yeah, like we touched on with the Cardinal energy. That direct, energetic style, it can come across as intimidating or maybe just irritating to some people.
And that gets in the way.
Unfortunately, yeah. It can make it harder to build the alliances, the cooperation you often need for certain types of success.
So the very thing that makes them strong assertion can create friction.
It's a paradox, isn't it? And that directness, as we mentioned, can spill over into romance, too. Maybe a forceful or overly assertive approach sometimes.
Which can be tough in relationships.
It can present challenges in creating that balance, that harmony you want in intimate connections.
It really feels like a core theme is learning to modulate that raw energy.
It really is. And related to that, the archetype often suggests being cautious about getting deeply tangled in, say, big political or social conflicts, those long, drawn-out battles.
Why is that?
Well, their initial burst of enthusiasm might pull them in, but the kind of sustained strategic maneuvering needed often requires a different energy style. Plus, it can just expose them to unnecessary risks.
Okay. What about the direct fallout from impulsivity itself?
Definitely a risk of just making rash decisions with bad outcomes, unexpectedly bad. The ego can get really invested in asserting itself right now.
Regardless of danger.
Sometimes, yeah. Overriding logical concerns about risk, even physical accidents, that unchecked Mars energy can just pop out in ways you didn't anticipate.
And how do they typically react if they feel someone's blocking them?
That can create real tension. If they see someone as an obstacle, it can lead to disputes, even angry outbursts, unfortunately.
Because it challenges their need to act.
Exactly. Challenges to their autonomy, their self-assertion. It can trigger these reactive behaviors, trying to prove their worth, maybe lashing out at authority figures. It comes from wanting to assert themselves, but it might be done poorly, creating more trouble.
So learning how to assert effectively is key. Strategically, not just reactively.
That's a perfect way to put it. And finally, relationship difficulties can pop up if others see them as unpredictable, maybe irrational, demanding.
Unreliable.
Yeah, they might come across as unreliable, erratic, even capricious, which, makes them hard to work with sometimes and can definitely strain personal bonds. There might be a tendency to put their own freedom, their own desires, so far first that they struggle to make the compromises needed in close relationships.
So the independence that's so core to them can actually undermine connections sometimes.
That's the tightrope walk, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
a central tension for Aries, balancing that powerful self-assertion with the very real need for connection, cooperation, interdependence in life.
So the Aries archetype really does embody this incredibly powerful fundamental drive. Initiation, self-assertion, understanding these different facets, the fire, the Mars influence, the strengths, the challenges. It gives you such valuable insight, doesn't it?
It really does, into motivations, potential path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about how this archetype might show up for you or in people you know or just out in the world. That initial spark, that drive to simply be. What new perspectives does thinking about Aries this way bring up for you?